I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. No, I'll stand my ground, won't be turned around, and I'll keep this Messiah from dragging me down. I'm going to stand my ground, and I won't back down. Well, I know what's right. I've just got one life. In a world that keeps on pushing me around, I'm going to stand my ground, and I won't back down. Jesus meets a gobby woman. Now, I've come across quite a few gobby women in my time, and there's a few in the various churches that I have the privilege of serving. They are quite persistent in what they want and quite expressive about what they think. And most of it is right. So we'll continue. By the way, that is from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, 1989. The Canaanite woman, the gobby woman, she's not shy about coming forward. She tells Jesus just as it is. My daughter is tormented by a demon. She doesn't directly want healing for her child. She doesn't say that. She wants mercy, and she presumes that would take the form of an exorcism. After all, the rumour was that people were simply bringing the sick and possessed to Jesus, and he healed them, even when they touched the fringe of his garments. She doesn't bring her daughter to Jesus, but she expects something to happen when she's upfront with Jesus about her request. Initially, Jesus, as we've heard, ignores the Canaanite woman and her request for mercy. Anybody with a pressing, desperate need knows how horrible it feels to have a request for help or information met with deathly silence. No one immediately responds to the Canaanite woman or gives the impression that they will respond. The disciples tell Jesus, as we've heard, to send her away because they're annoyed by her continued gobbiness. She just won't shut up. But she won't take his silence as an answer. Jesus' response to the apostles' mourning to send the Canaanite woman away seems to confirm their desire to dismiss her. Jesus says, I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. If our common humanity, our relatedness does not move us, then what will? Is Jesus being bloody-minded? Is he being super arrogant? Is he a racist? Is he all three? Why does Jesus, of all people, react in the way that he does? Why does he say what he does? Up to this point, his best mate, John the Baptist, had not long been murdered, been beheaded. He had also fed the 5,000. He'd healed the many sick. He'd exorcised demons. He did more signs and wonders. He got involved in a heated discussion with the Pharisees. And now there's this woman. So he probably just lost the plot of it. He was probably tired out and just wanted some time alone. I remember when I moved into my last parish, and by about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I was absolutely knackered from moving boxes around, finding this, trying to find that, trying to calm down a dog, etc., 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 trying to find out where was this, that, and the other in a new house, and I'd had it by about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Somebody rang on the door and tried to offer help, and I just told him basically to get lost. Little did I know that he was the pastor of the UOC church across the road. But I was tired out, and I said it when I was tired out. And Jesus was probably just tired out. The Canaanite woman persists. She didn't go away, and she won't go away, she won't lie down. She draws closer and kneels. And she cries out, "Master, help me." And her plea for help is met with surprising rudeness from Jesus. He does it again. It's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. The woman's response is, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." And in the end, as we heard, Matthew's Jesus responds by commending the woman for her faith. Matthew called what this woman does as an act of faith. And yet Jesus still doesn't perform any exorcism. He just says, "Let it be done for you as you wish." And interestingly, we are told that the woman's daughter was healed instantly. Jesus doesn't say a word. Perhaps faith engenders persistence, or maybe persistence feeds faith. Either way, persistence and faith make a powerful, powerful pair. Never underestimate the power of a godly woman and the God in whom she believes. For this God is not a God of harsh soundbites, but is a God of forgiveness. God is not a God who records our sins, but a God who washes them away. God is not a God who demands perfection from us, but a God who asks for a contrite heart when we can't measure up. God is not a God who gives us only one chance, but a God who gives us infinite chances. God is not a God who waits for us to come to our senses after we have fallen, but a God who comes searching for us, full of love, full of understanding, and full of care. God is not a God who is calculating and stingy with his gifts, but a prodigal God who sowed seeds everywhere without regard for waste or worthiness. God is not a God who is powerless before evil and death, but a God who can raise dead bodies to life and redeem what is evil and hopeless. God is not a God who is arbitrary and fickle, but a God who is reliable in his promise and in his goodness. God is not a racist. He is a God who sees no racial, doesn't see gender, doesn't see age, class, or sexuality as issues. We are all created in his image. God is not a God who is dumb and unable to deal with any baggage that we might have, but a God who fashioned the depths of the universe and the deepest recesses of the human psyche. Ultimately, this God is not a God who can't protect us, but is a God in whose hands and in whose promise we are far safer than when we rely upon ourselves. And perhaps this is what the Canaanite woman understood all along, more than Jesus' disciples. That in Jesus there is love, and love knows no boundaries. Amen.